Hello, Mammo Brothers, back again. Hopefully this time for a quick one. And this is coming from the National Health Statistics reports on the fertility of men and women aged 15 to 44, your age or your fertility window, your childbearing years. And this was sent to me by a SYSBM brother. And it's not lengthy, but it actually is a lengthy report with a lot of tables. But this is about the fertility rate of men and women. How many men and women ever had a child within this age range? Of course, you don't expect teenagers to have a lot of kids, which it's almost like 20% of your children actually born before age 21. But it's about the total number of kids, estimated the total number of kids at the end of a woman's life. And same thing for men. And the reason they send it to me is because we're always talking about the percentage of men that ever have children. And it's been bandied around between 51 and 54% of men, black men, that don't have children, which on its face seems like it's kind of rare, but really it's not. Because if you look at the highlighted portion, it's probably might be hard to see on this one. But if we talk about Hispanic women, which have the highest fertility, they've ever had like 62.1%. 62.1% of Hispanic females have had kids, and 49% of Hispanic men ever had kids, which is a nice little gap. Same thing for non-Hispanic whites. 53% of white women had kids, and only 42% of men have kids. White men have kids. It's even lower for Asians. 48% of Asian women have kids. Only 35% of Asian men have ever had kids. So when you see 46% of black men have kids and 57% of black women have kids or ever had kids, it's not that high a percentage. So like I said, it's a similar percentage between, like I said, between white, non-Hispanic black and non-Hispanic white. It's not that big a gap, but it does tell you that only 46% of men ever sire children, which is something we've been saying. So the fact that black men are seeding kids all over the place is not true. And that bears it out. What we're looking at actually bears out what we're saying. And there's all kinds of tables about the number of kids ever born. Interesting, but this is not where the rubber meets the road, because a lot of people look at the charts and a lot of people look at half of the study and they don't read it to the end. And towards the end is where it gets interesting, when it gets into the tables. Because I like to read tables. I like to read raw data if I can get it. So since I like charts, I think raw numbers and charts are very telling if you can find the right ones. Not always, but if you can find the right ones, they're very telling. So what we're going to look at right now, something very interesting. The number of children born to women aged 15 to 44, which is your childbearing years, in this time period from 2011 to 2015. A little snippet in time. And what we're going to focus on is the race. We're actually going to compare that to what the males actually produce. Okay, Hispanic origin and race, right? They separated to native born versus foreign born. Fine, but we're going to use the totals. Hispanic or Latina, okay, they have 12,300,000 children born to Hispanic or Latina in this particular time frame. Okay. Non-Hispanic whites, 34 million children born in this time frame. Black or African American, right? 8,400,000. And Asian, 3,100,000. And that's all fine and good until you start comparing numbers. And we're going to show them, and then we're actually going to cut them out and compare them. Now we'll go to the same thing. For the men, number of biological children fathered by men aged 15 to 44 between the years 2011 and 2015. Hispanic Latino. Remember the Hispanic Latino females were actually producing 12,300,000. Latinos actually produced 600,000 more, fathered 600,000 more children than the Latino women had. Significant. Same thing with the white race. White men actually fathered almost 300,000 more children than the white women had. And look at the opposite. Black, African American males, right? Now, these two up here, they actually fathered more children than their women actually produced, or actually they actually sired more children than the women actually produced, right? Look at this. African American males, 7.2 million versus 8.4 million for females. We're the exact opposite. We're in reverse order to everybody else. That is significant. So, in other words, if you think about it, African American females actually had 1.2 million children in this time period for somebody other than black males. So that idea that black males are actually fathering all these out of wedlock births, all these children, well, that's fine for 85%. What about the other 13 to 15% of children that black males are not attached to? In other words, there is something strange in Denmark happening right now, because the numbers don't lie. Numbers don't lie. The trope is that black men are seeding all these groups with children, and black women are the victims of black men seeding all these children, when the opposite is happening. Black women are actually having babies for people outside the group. So for women that are the most faithful, the most loyal, the most race loyal, it doesn't show up in the stats. Now, they always point to the marriage rate, which black men are more married than black women, even though we have fewer, like 2 million fewer in number versus black women. And they always point to dating and marriage as far as proving that black men are not race loyal. But when you look at the numbers as far as who has whose baby, then all of a sudden it's a different story. Numbers don't lie. So when we talk to these sisters about being loyal and not cheating, these sisters are swirling. They're not only swirling, they're creating interracial babies. They're creating more interracial babies than black men. So even if you think that, that there's an equal number of interracial couples on both sides, and that kind of a wash, black women are actually producing 1.2 million more babies than black men are siring. And that's just a 4-year period. If you go further back, how bad is that data? And the children always get listed as black. So as far as race is concerned, since all children coming out of a black female's womb is considered black, we get blamed, even though we're not the ones siring these children. So they could have children by a Hispanic man, as it looks to be, because Hispanic men are producing or siring 600,000 more children than the Latinos are having. So that tells me a lot of black women having a lot of Latina babies. And white men are actually siring 300,000 more children than their white women are having. That tells me that there's a whole lot of black women having babies for white men too. So there's some lies going on. I think it's not cold, hard, concrete proof. It's not a smoking gun, but like I said, it doesn't pass the sniff test. And there's a lot of deception and hiding that's going on. And our female scholars that look at this kind of data, I know they look at it and they just kind of ignored it and brushed it off. So I understand that so many black men are not having or not siring children because of child support laws and rules, and we get blamed for, Pookie and Ray Ray gets blamed for a lot of children. So do the so-called educated lambs, or the average guys get blamed for having kids and running off. But there's 1.2 million children just in the last 5 years that are unaccounted for, that black men didn't sire, but we get blamed for. We get blamed for getting white women pregnant and siring kids. It's like we're seeding the whole country, and we're not. It's a falsehood. So we're gonna keep an eye on this, because this is fascinating. I would really like a study to know exactly why these levels are so far off. Black men produce far less children than their women actually have. So it's it's funny to me. It's actually really hilarious to me that black women can actually have a narrative. White people can go along with it, and we get blamed. But then when you look at the raw numbers, guess what? It tells a different story. It really does. And I think that the idea that so many black men don't have kids, that's one thing. But this is a smoking gun. You can't hide this. Okay? When children are born, you can't hide that. You can't hide a baby is not born. You can kind of fudge the numbers as far as unwed, single guys with no kids. But black women are having babies by somebody. And it was thought that Pookie and Ray Ray was actually siring all these kids. But au contraire, a whole bunch of these kids are being sired by other races. And black women are throwing rocks and hiding their hand. But anyway, I just wanted to drop a little rock in the force and cause a slight disturbance and see where the ripples go. So I'm sure brothers are kind of latch onto this study and look at these numbers and see what the conclusion is, because the census is going to come out eventually this year, and a lot of this data is going to be right there. And I wonder what the census is going to say. Is it going to confirm what we're seeing? Is it going to deny what we're seeing, or what? But all I can say is, black women, you're on the clock. You are on the clock. And a lot of the lies that you have told over the past, I would say 50, 60 years, the truth is getting ready to come to light, because black men are awake and we're looking, and we're going to counter all those negative narratives, because now we have a voice. But anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next.